In this video, you are going to improve your vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation with Stranger Things. So this clip is taken from the newest season of Stranger Things, and I thought we could go through everything that Robin says and see what we can use in our own English.
It's looking like a pretty regular day in Hawkins. 55 degrees, low chance of rain, medium chance of arrest, high chance of a helicopter.
So first off, I want to give you a phrase, a chance of. So here we have low chance of rain, but you could have a high chance of flooding, a low chance of snow, and things like that. We use this phrase in the weather, but also just for probabilities in general. There's a low chance that he will come to the party. There's a high chance that I'll be hungry after the film.
But general banality aside, it's an exciting day for me. Your friend, entertainer, and DJ Robin Buckley. Nice to meet you, aka Rockin' Robin.
Okay, so I thought we could look at this word, aside, which means ignoring that part. So what Robin was saying, there's a chance of arrest, there's a high chance of helicopters, but ignoring all of that information, it is an exciting day for me. And I also want to talk about pronunciation. Nice to meet you. Okay, let's listen to Robin say it again.
Robin Buckley, nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. So this is blending. The last sound in meet, t, and the first sound in you, y, come together and they almost crash into each other and create a new messy sound. In this case, it's ch. So we have nice to meet you. But why not meet you, right? It's meet you. So why does it come out as meet you? Well, ya is a weak form of you, especially in American English. So nice to meet you becomes nice to meet you.
And why is it a big day for me, you ask? Well, it's my 500th broadcast. Yeah, you heard that right, folks. 500. Which means it's been even longer since you've heard the sultry voice of Jimmy Fast Hands Lee.
Let's stick with pronunciation for a second. 500th. Hundredth. Do you notice that I've dropped a sound there? I don't say hundredth. That's too difficult. Hundredth. It's not even coming out. So we drop the d and we say hundredth. These are called ordinal numbers. First, second, third, fourth. And you'll notice that we drop sounds a lot to make it work. Like in fifth, we're not saying fiveth because it's too difficult. So we change it to fifth. Or 12th, we're dropping the v again, 12th. And so on. And when we get to 100, it becomes hundredth. I also want to show you this phrase. You heard that right. Okay, this is something that we say in everyday English after we say something surprising. You can imagine it like this. If I say something and I expect the other person won't believe it, so much so that they might even think they heard me wrong. I might, preempt that. I might say before, you heard that right. So for example, I just won £1 million. You're probably thinking, wait, did he just say he won £1 million? That can't be right. So before you even think that, I might say, you heard that right. I won £1 million. So that's a phrase you can use. It is everyday English, and you can use it in your own speech. And we've also got a bit of grammar here. Check this out. It's been even longer since you heard the sultry voice of Jimmy Fast Hands Lee. Okay, and the most important part is it's been and you've heard. Okay, what we are using here is the present perfect. And to make the present perfect, we need have or has and the past participle. So, for example, it has been even longer. You have heard. So why are we using the present perfect in this kind of context? Well, we can use the present perfect to connect something in the past to the present. This is the main use of the present perfect, and it's something that I highly recommend. For example, I have lived here for 3 years. I have never been to Italy. Okay, so it's talking about our experience now in connection with
the past, something that did or didn't happen in the past.
But while Jimmy was fleeing Hawkins even faster than he moves those hands, yours truly was watching slack-jawed as the earth split open beneath her feet and coughed up that tsunami of mysterious dandruff.
So the piece of vocab I want to share with you here is fleeing, or to flee. It means to run away quickly. And this is a news word. If you watch the news often, you'll often hear that word flee or fleeing. And you can use it in everyday speech, but it's a little bit more formal. You know, we're taking run away quickly and we're condensing it into one more advanced word. But now you can use it in your vocabulary. I also wanted to share some pronunciation with you. Beneath her feet. Okay, let's listen to Robin say it.
Beneath her feet.
Okay, so you'll notice that we don't say her, beneath her feet. We're dropping the h sound. And the reason for that is it helps us get our words out more quickly. So we've got a weak form here. Now check this out. Stranger Things is an American TV show, and this character is American. And in American, they like to pronounce their sounds more strongly than a British person. So they say beneath her feet, beneath her feet. But if I were to say it as a British person, I would say beneath her feet, because ER sounds usually have an sound, like teacher, right? So I'd say beneath her feet, and Robin would say beneath her feet.
And now, I'm stuck here with you, my fellow quarantine compatriots.
So the word stuck might have a new meaning for you. This word has quite a few meanings. You may have used it in class, you know, I'm stuck on this problem. But here it means to stay in one place, unable to move and unable to leave. Robin is stuck in this town because of the quarantine. Now, many of you will remember that we were all in quarantine just a few years ago. I'm sure we all have pleasant memories of that. Yeah, so we could say we were stuck inside for months or even years.
And if I can be brutally honest, I couldn't be happier. Because when you really think about it, why would you want to live anywhere else?
So I'd like to stick with vocabulary for now. You can be honest, but then you can be brutally honest. So that's telling the truth, even if it hurts someone's feelings. So imagine this scenario. Your friend walks into the room. They've just bought all these new clothes. They're wearing them. How do I look? They say. Actually, they don't look very good. So you might say, I'm not so sure about that hat. Or, I don't think that hat suits you. But if I were brutally honest, I would say, that hat looks terrible on you. That hat makes you look ugly. Right? So that's going to hurt my friend's feelings. That is being brutally honest. And maybe you've lost friends because they've been brutally honest too. I'd like to stick with this section for now because I want to talk about this question. When we learn about questions in English, we're often taught that the pitch or the intonation goes up at the end of the question, like in, are you okay? But that doesn't always happen. Check it out. Why would you want to live anywhere else? Actually, my voice didn't go up. Let's listen to Robin say it.
Why would you want to live anywhere else?
So there's actually another rule to this. So when a question is closed, it's a yes/no question, your pitch goes up at the end. Are you okay? But when the question is open, you want some more information, your pitch, your intonation actually goes down. Why aren't you okay? What can I do to help you? Why would you want to live anywhere else?
I mean, what town on earth can match our very impressive military to civilian ratio?
So let's talk about ratio. So Robin says military to civilian ratio. So ratio actually comes from maths. So let's look at it as numbers, a 2-to-1 ratio. And we could write it like that, I suppose. So a 2-to-1 ratio means for every 2 of something, there is 1 of another thing. Think about a sandwich. let's put something simple inside, like a spread of peanut butter. For every 2 pieces of bread, there is 1 spread of peanut butter. So the ratio of bread to peanut butter in a peanut butter sandwich is 2 to 1. Okay, but let's look at this example again. We have the very impressive military to civilian ratio. Robin hasn't given us any numbers. All we know is that it's impressive. Maybe we don't need to know the numbers. It's more about the comparison. That there even is a ratio to talk about is already surprising. And well, if we're living in this town where Robin is giving her radio broadcast, we would know that there is a lot of military compared with the civilians. So she's just referring to it. She's not needing to tell us the numbers. We should already know if we lived there. Let's carry on.
And those free, mandatory medical checkups, I mean, very cool. Because after we inhaled those springtime snowflakes, I mean, who knows what's wrong with us?
So there are 2 things I want to talk about here. The first one is pronunciation, and the second is vocabulary. So let's start with pronunciation. When Robin says very cool, she doesn't say it in a normal way. She says very cool. So she's making her voice higher. She's slowing it down, and you can almost sense a kind of song in there. Very cool. It kind of goes up, down, doesn't it? So this is sarcasm. She's telling you, I don't mean the words I'm saying. And I have to say it in a weird way so that you understand I don't mean this. So let's talk about our friend in the ugly clothes again. We could say, your hat is very nice. Right? We're telling that friend actually, it's not very nice. So if you ever want to say something, but also tell them that what I'm saying isn't what I believe, then you too can raise your voice, slow it down, and maybe even put a song in there. So let's talk about this vocabulary, inhaled or inhale. It means to breathe in. Okay, and the opposite would be exhale. Notice in when you go into a building, and X from exit, like exit a building. That's a good way to remember it. Inhale, exhale. These are words that we often find in medicine or in sports, in exercise, whereas in everyday speech, you might be more likely to say breathe in or breathe out. But I do think it's important that you know both. Breathe in and inhale are equally used in English, so try to learn both of them.
No one really knows for sure. After all, this was a natural phenomenon never before seen by man. A phenomenon now covered up by a giant metal band-aid. Quite the eyesore, but hey, great for sledding.
Okay, so you can see I've highlighted quite a lot here. So I want to talk about vocabulary. First of all, we have for sure. Okay, nobody knows for sure. I don't know for sure whether that's the answer. What we're saying is, I don't know exactly. I don't know definitely or certainly. No one knows for sure. Now I've highlighted all of this because it gives us 2 examples of the passive voice. Okay, so when we use the passive voice, we're talking about what happened more than who or what did it. So our first example, after all, this was a natural phenomenon never before seen by man. So I could actually take some of this away and it would still have the same meaning. After all, this was a natural phenomenon never before seen. And that's enough, isn't it? That gives us all the information we need, really. Never before seen by man gives us a little bit more, maybe useful, maybe not. And by the way, here, man actually means human or people. So it's never before seen by humans. We could imagine it says that. Next example, a phenomenon now covered up by a giant metal band-aid. And check it out. I can cross that out again, by a giant metal band-aid. So the sentence becomes a phenomenon now covered up. Totally fine. That tells us what we need to know. But if we want to, we can give that extra information with the buy clause. Buy a giant metal band-aid. So we could reverse these and create the active voice. That's the normal way that we usually talk. We could say, man has never before seen this natural phenomenon. Or for the second sentence, a giant metal band-aid has now covered up this phenomenon, right? So to make the passive voice, we turn the subject and we put it at the end of the sentence. It's not so important anymore. These are some difficult sentences because we have some big words like phenomenon in them. So let me give you something a bit more simple. In active voice, I could say, I am making a video. Or let's change it to passive. This video is being made by me. I could just say this video is being made and that is enough. But I want you to know that I did it. This video is being made by me. So we use the passive voice when the action is more important than who or what is doing it. Or we don't want to say who or what is doing it. Example, I broke a glass. I don't want to say I broke it because I might get in trouble. I might say the glass was broken.
So seriously, kids, stop sledding on the giant steel band-aid. You are going to kill yourselves, and also the men with guns, they don't like it. Not one bit.
Okay, so notice how Robin's voice changes there. Stop sledding on the giant steel band-aid. Okay, so before that, all of her words were blending together. It almost sounded like one sentence was one word. But here she slows down and she makes sure that every word is clear. She really wants the listener to understand everything. In English, we don't usually do that. We like to blend our words. So why would you do it? There are a few reasons. You might want to warn someone, don't go near the river. Or you might want to tell someone off like a child. Stop touching my things. So really, we just really want to make sure that the listener understands every part of the sentence. And in this, Robin had this jokey radio host voice, so it's quite a change. She's even still used the giant steel band-aid, which is kind of a joke that she made. But saying it this way makes you take it seriously, doesn't it? If you wanted to type like this, you could just put in some full stops. This is quite a normal way to write informally. So when I'm sending someone a message, I might write it like that. Don't look in the cupboard. Something like that. Informal, like I say. So don't put this in a university essay or a report for your boss. But talking to your friends, very good, very native, very fluent. Now let's look at this vocabulary. Not one bit means not at all. But not one bit might be more common or equally common in spoken English. They don't like it, not one bit.
While we're on the subject of things not to do, please steer clear of the military access control zone, aka the MAC-Z, or as I like to call it, the Big Mac.
Our vocabulary here is steer clear of. It means stay away from. But it's a bit more formal, a bit more stern and strict. So steer clear of the moors after dark. You know, that could be advice to somebody. You know, if you use this formal language, it's taken more seriously. So it can be a good one to add to your vocabulary. Stay away from might be a bit more informal. So it might be useful in different situations.
I have no idea what's going on in there, but I have a gut feeling there's a pretty good reason they'd like you to stay away.
So when Robin says this, a pretty good reason, her voice goes up again. The pitch or intonation rises, a little bit like when she was being sarcastic. And when she used sarcasm, it was because she wanted to give you a bit more information, like, I don't really mean this. Now this is quite similar. she's doing this to imply some meaning. She's trying to hint at something. So maybe she's saying, the real reason is scary and secret and I can't really talk about it. I'm going to call it a pretty good reason. So there's a little bit more to what she's actually saying. So playing with your voice like this can be a way to say, there's more to this story. Ask me later.
But hey, the rest of Hawkins is still there for you to enjoy. Someday soon they're going to let us out of here. In the meantime, be thankful that this is your home. Study for that test, enjoy that TV dinner, and go on that date.
Finally, we've made it to the final paragraph, and we have one of everything. We have the pronunciation, the vocabulary, and the grammar. So let's start with pronunciation. When Robin says this, the rest of Hawkins, she uses a weak form. She doesn't say the rest of Hawkins. She doesn't say the rest of Hawkins. She says the rest of Hawkins. So she's lost that v. She hasn't put a f. Nothing. It's just the rest of Hawkins. This is called elision. When we speak quickly, sometimes we lose a sound or two to make those words come out more quickly. It's more efficient. Especially for words like this, functional words that don't really have a meaning. They're easy to drop because the listener can usually just guess them anyway. It's not important that they hear them. So, the rest of Hawkins. And then we have the grammar. We're looking at imperatives here. Imperatives are verb plus object, and they are for giving instructions. Be thankful. Study for that test. Enjoy that TV dinner. Go on that date. And check it out. We can actually make these shorter. We could just say, go. That's a complete sentence. Go. So the object is actually optional sometimes. We don't always have to say what the verb is being done to. Go is enough. Cook, stand. All of these can be sentences. They can sound rude, but they can be sentences. So why do we use imperatives? They're usually for instructions. You've definitely seen imperatives if you've ever looked at a recipe. Add water, mix it up, fry for 20 minutes. That would burn your food, but it would be good English. So I'm going to go through all of this again now and read it out. I cannot show you the full clip because I'll get a copyright strike, and fair enough, this is Netflix's content. But showing you little bits I think is okay. So I'm going to read through, and I'm going to do it as a native speaker, much like Robin, I guess more in my own voice. And as I do that, I want you to listen for the things we talked about today. The more times that you notice something, the quicker you will learn it, and the quicker you'll be able to use it. So it's very important that we do this part. But before we do that, I wanted to let you know that this is only about half the lesson, because the rest of the lesson is on my website. So this is EnglishWithRhys.com, and as you can see, we have a course for pretty much every video I've ever made. So there's a course for Walk and Talk English, the complete English grammar guides, and of course down here, the Learn English With course. And as you can see, we already have 32 lectures and 80 quizzes in this course. Check it out. All of these are different videos. Example, the first Learn English With video was South Koreans Become Younger. And when you do this course, you'll notice that it's not just watching a video and doing a little quiz. Each video has 7 parts to it. Let's look at the newest one. We did Lewis Capaldi's song Survive. So you can see that a lot of time, effort, and love really have gone into this. My goal is to teach you English in the best way that I can. And the best way that I can teach many of you at the same time is with an online course. We have explanations, we have quizzes, and it's all designed to help you learn English faster. By the time you get to the end of one lesson, you will have learned so much about vocabulary, pronunciation, and grammar. So if you want to check that out, it's available to my members. There's a link in the description, and hopefully I'll see you on there. Now, let's get back to the article. As I said, I'm going to read this out as a native speaker. And as you know, I am a native speaker. So the way I say it might be a little bit different to how Robin says it. That's because I'm not her, okay? But it is a native way of reading and speaking. So, good morning, Hawkins. This is WSQK, the Squawk. It's looking like a regular day in Hawkins. 55 degrees, low chance of rain, medium chance of arrest, high chance of helicopters. But general banality aside, it's an exciting day for me, your friend, entertainer, and DJ, Robin Buckley. Nice to meet you, aka Rockin' Robin. And why is it a big day for me, you ask? Well, it's my 500th broadcast. Yeah, you heard that right, folks. 500. Which means it's been even longer since you've heard the sultry voice of Jimmy Fast Hands Lee. But while Jimmy was fleeing Hawkins, even faster than he moves those hands, yours truly was watching slack-jawed as the earth split open beneath her feet and coughed up that tsunami of mysterious dandruff. And now I'm stuck here with you, my fellow quarantine compatriots. And if I could be brutally honest, I couldn't be happier. Because when you really think about it, why would you want to live anywhere else? I mean, what town on earth can match our very impressive military to civilian ratio? And those free, mandatory medical checkups, I mean, very cool. Because after we inhaled those springtime snowflakes, who knows what's wrong with us? Maybe we're fine, maybe not. No one knows for sure. After all, this was a natural phenomenon never before seen by man. A phenomenon now covered up by a giant metal band-aid. Quite the eyesore, but hey, great for sledding. Though seriously, kids, stop sledding on the giant steel band-aid. You're going to kill yourselves. Also, the men with guns, they don't like it. Not one bit. While we're on the subject of things not to do, please steer clear of the Military Access Control Zone, aka the MAC-Z, or as I like to call it, the Big Mac. I have no idea what's going on in there, but I have a gut feeling there's a pretty good reason they'd like you to stay away. But hey, the rest of Hawkins is still there for you to enjoy. Someday soon, they're gonna let us out of here. In the meantime, be thankful this is your home, study for that test, enjoy that TV dinner, and go on that date. All right, I'll see you later.